The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
What time is it?
I am the face that runs the place.
You need Roman to be out of the main title picture for a little while. Like, just, you give him a break. This is the only way you're possibly going to get the crowd to do anything but boo him, is give him a break.
I'm the greatest wrestler in the world.
It was exciting to see because it kind of reminded me of Reading Rainbow a little bit.
All they needed was LeVar Burton to come in there.
This would have definitely got a 5-star pay-per-view for me.
Show of the year.
Yeah, show of the year.
How you doing?
The only factor in my loss tonight was the possible interference from that scoundrel, Jack Gallagher.
Excuse me, did you just call me a scoundrel? As an extraordinary gentleman, I will happily allow you the ability to retract your baseless slander.
You are a scoundrel!
Well, Mr. Davari, I'm afraid you have impugned my character, and honor dictates that we must settle this in the traditional manner. I challenge you to a duel.
A duel? Who are you, Alexander Hamilton?
No, I believe if I have American history correct, I'm more like Aaron Burr.
Ladies and gentlemen, wrestling to the mat.
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max, episode 227, part 1. And tonight, we are going to be covering a lot of awesome things, lots of different news topics and quick hits that may not be significant, but they're very interesting. Plus, we're also going to get into Paul's wish list for this next year. That's right. He didn't get a chance to do it last week, so this week he's going to have that opportunity. And, of course, we're going to jump into a special topic that we all kind of find interesting because of some conversations we've had off air, and that is what have been the biggest news topics of this past year. So we're going to get into those, some of the significant things, and of course maybe some predictions for next year. That'd be kind of cool. So of course that's all the stuff we'll be having on this show. Of course, Ring of Honor was a clip show this past week, so we're not going to do it only because of the fact we'll be covering things you guys have already heard about. Besides that, I'm your host, Gary Vaughn, and of course with me is Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
And Mr. Paul Leeser.
Hey-o.
And boy, it was fun. I hope everybody had a great Christmas. I know I did. It was a wonderful season. And of course, the new year is upon us. But guys, I mean, Paul, I really hope that you got your special gift from Santa Claus. I heard that he was going to give you a subscription or a gift card at Chipotle or something like that, I think.
I did get that. It was a whole $20. Santa's a bit of a
wow.
cheapskate. But, you ask for one thing, you get something else, and at least Santa got me something, though, right? That's the point. You're supposed to be grateful.
I know. I was a little jealous of Sean getting his massage. I'd say that.
But he wanted the Emelina experience. Like that's, whew. I should have put that on my list.
Yeah, I think we all would like that on our list.
Jealous Zack Ryder.
Yeah. Are they still together? I don't even know. I haven't heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything to the contrary. So.
Oh, okay. So we're also. But guys, all joking aside, I had fun with that intro last week. I hope people enjoyed it. I hope no one turned it off after hearing that, but it was fun. I hope you all enjoyed it. But let's just sit down into the brass tacks. I mean, I tell you this, I had a better Christmas than I ever expected. I got some great gifts that I didn't really honestly expect. I got a new little headset, Bluetooth headset that I really needed badly. I got a Dak Prescott t-shirt that's really cool. And I got some cool things from my in-laws. My father-in-law actually restored my childhood wagon that I'd had since I was a toddler. And it was destroyed because we used to play with it as a kids and all this. And he restored it, almost all original pieces. And it looks beautiful. If you've seen my Facebook page, you've seen it. And it looks amazing. So that's just a few things. I mean, I had a lot more, but I won't go on and on about my Christmas. How was yours, Paul? How did everything go for you?
I mean, I guess my biggest gift, all my friends shipped in to cover both Christmas and birthday for me. I got one of those replica WWE World Heavyweight Championship belts hanging in my room now. Wow. It's quite heavy and quite awesome.
Do you have your own little, what do you call those? I don't know what to call them.
The personalized side plates were quite expensive from what I was told.
But you could have done it if they would have wanted to.
Yeah, they apparently make those, so it's kind of cool.
Can you add them in to what you have there?
There's not screws on there like they have on the actual belt that I can see, so I think what I got on there is there for keeps.
Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I mean, that was my big thing. I got a bunch of shirts. I got, gift cards and stuff like that, too. But, I mean, that's really my biggest gift. And of course, obviously the coolest.
Awesome, man. It sounds like you had an awesome holiday, man. That's really, really cool. Sean, how about you, man? Did you have just a good time? I know you're probably having fun with your daughter.
I was, the first half of Christmas was spent, got to do, if you're friends with me on Facebook, you got to see the whole picture wall of everything Anaya got for Christmas. I got a coffee mug, which I got to make sure I don't take that one to work because then I'll lose. That coffee mug, like I've lost all 4 of the coffee mugs that my mom had. My mom used to get coffee mugs from this church she used to go to. That's now currently an hour away from us, so she has to go to this other church. But taking them to work and then leaving them in different places, I've lost them all. So my grandma got me a coffee mug, and this one I'm just gonna keep it here, so I don't lose that. And then I think I got money from my dad, and then I got something else. I don't really had some candy cane that's like a big candy cane from Anaya. And,
oh wow.
That was pretty the extent. I mean, but that I don't. It's so weird. Before I think once I got to college age, I started not caring about whether I got stuff on Christmas or not. Also because I really couldn't say anything when I wasn't getting people stuff for Christmas either. Mm-hmm. So, when it starts becoming where you're not buying everybody in the family gifts because, hey, let's be honest here, buying gifts is expensive as hell, okay? And when you're trying to make it, you can't go buy Uncle Tim a gift and Aunt Susie a gift and Uncle that lives in California a gift, and
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You can't do all that. So you really can't expect for those people to also give you a gift too, if you're not giving them anything. So, but she had a great little Christmas. Hopefully, once the crowds die down from I got to bring everything back that I bought because now I realize I don't have money. That was the extent of Kmart today. I realized that I cannot afford this, so now I have to bring it back. It's why the hell did you buy it in the first place? It's I had to be there for the appearances and make sure I got my kids something. Oh, but you're not going to have it tomorrow, kids, so don't worry. Stupid. Wow. But, I'm just saying, why are you going to buy your kids something and then the next day you're going to take it back, right? It defeats the purpose of giving them something. But But yeah, once that dies down, I think like once after New Year's and all that, I might go buy Anaya a couple of things that was on the list that we didn't get to buy her for Christmas. But she got so much stuff that I'm sure she is not complaining. She is just fine. So, but the other half of Christmas I spent by myself because I didn't feel like going to like some weird ranch that my uncle was going to or something. So
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, cool. I mean, at Christmas. No, go ahead.
I got cut up on the feels of This Is Us instead.
Oh.
That show is great, but it's like Parenthood where it's basically made for you to like cry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, This Is Us holds back nothing when they come for your feels every episode, and it's gut-wrenching. I love the show so much, though. It's so incredible.
And they want that thing to be big because they're even airing repeat episodes on USA and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Wow. I need to check it out.
it's only 10 episodes. It's not long at all.
They're hour episodes. Like, I mean, it's your typical drama length, but I mean, you can't binge watch it. You will jump off a building.
Oh boy. Okay. Okay.
I would watch like 2 episodes a night or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to try that. So, I mean, it is just amazing all the different things that go on during the holidays, including binge watching shows because you finally have the opportunity. And
they freaking finally got me to get the commercial-free Hulu because of that. I got so tired of having to sit through like 4 commercials every time they went to break. I was like, you know what? Screw it.
And they're always the same commercials. So.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I binge watched that and Lucifer, and I was like, by the time I got done with those 2 shows, I was like, you know what? Screw this.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like, oh, geez, I don't even want to finish the show I'm watching because I've seen this commercial 8,000 times.
Oh.
But yeah, I'm glad that you did get that.
And then on comedies, it's terrible. It's like you get like 6 of them now.
Oh, yeah.
I hope the network never gets like that, because, ugh.
If it does, we're going to have some problems. I'll say that. Because I will definitely be tuning out a lot. But anyway. Well, I hope everybody listening had a great holiday. I hope you all enjoyed it, whatever you celebrated. I know not everybody celebrates exactly what we consider Christmas. Some people have other type of holidays, including, Hanukkah, where you spread your gifts out all, during the season, 8 days, right? I think they do gifts. I don't know, 12 days. Yeah. I can't. I'm so bad at that.
Apparently, there's a strategy to that too. Like you go all out on like day 1, and then you go all out on day 8, and then you do like small stuff in between.
Oh, okay.
So,
see, fair enough. I have a friend that actually celebrates both. Does Christmas and Hanukkah for her kids. So
that must get expensive.
It's also 8 days. Yeah, it's the 24th to the 1st this year. Is what Hanukkah is. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you. The only thing that reminded me that it was 8 days was I thought, oh, Doug here, 8 crazy nights. Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
So anyway, no, it's crazy. But I hope everybody, like I said, enjoyed their holiday. We are, of course, we'll be talking wrestling on the show. I'm sorry, we just wanted to stop and talk. We haven't talked at all about our Christmas at all, really. But we have some interesting things to jump into with quick hits, and of course, don't forget you're still getting Paul's wish list on this show. But until then, we're going to stop here and talk some quick hits, guys. We'll be right back with that right after this.
It's time for wrestling news. Quick hits.
All
right. Well, let's start off by talking about the sad thing first, because I don't want to finish this whole segment off with the sad thing. Here it is. Lillian Garcia, we've all known for a little while that her dad's been sick, and she, of course, took her leave from WWE, of course, basically quitting because of this whole situation with her dad. She had no idea how long her dad was going to be sick, if he was going to get better, if he was going to get worse. All she knew is he was in pretty bad shape, and sadly, her father passed away on Christmas, and that is horrible. Especially on supposed to be a joyous occasion, and then this is not. So our best wishes go out to her and her family. This is just a tragedy, of course, for the Garcia family. But saying that, I just think that, we all, have to really realize, during the holidays that, it's also a time of remembering the family members and people that we love that were a part of our lives. And so it's just such a sad thing that she's got to deal with this every Christmas. But, do you think that after this whole thing is over, guys, I mean, it's so sad. But do you think now there could be a possibility she tries to return to WB? Or do you think she may just kind of say, I'm done, I'm going to find something else? Because she's been part of WB for so long.
I mean, first of all, condolences, obviously, to her and her family. That is a terrible, terrible thing to have happen on Christmas. And I mean, obviously, there's no great day to have a parent or a loved one die, but certainly Christmas is not the one you want them dying on. So whether she ever comes back to WWE, I don't know. She tried the singing career thing; it didn't really take off for her, so she came back. I could see her coming back to the WWE again. I don't know what else she wants to do out there in the world, but I think she'll always have a spot in the WWE so long as she wants it.
I mean, I don't know what it entails for like CFO money, what they have going on there with their music thing, and what Jim Johnston is doing now. But if they have a spot sort of in that arena for her, I think that would be great. Behind the scenes kind of thing. I think really you have sort of moved on from the old guard almost everywhere else. I don't know that you can bring her back to do the ring announcing thing anymore. I think you've now chosen, JoJo and some of the other ones you already have. You kind of got to stick to that. But I mean, whether she works in the music or she does something with maybe work in NXT with that, that could be a great spot for her. I'm sure there's some other backstage thing that she could probably do if she wanted to do that. But obviously, this is terrible, and it really sucks that she had to go through that on Christmas of all things. Paul that even has a birthday on Christmas. And I can't imagine what that would be for him to be like, oh, I celebrate my life, I celebrate Christmas, then I gotta celebrate, someone close to me passing, like what Lillian's going through. That's just, man.
Yeah, it's awful, and I just really wonder how she's going to take this. Because the whole reason she kind of stalled her career was to take care of her father, and with him gone now, you just really question her future and what she's going to do, and she'll be fine. It's just a question because of the fact of, once again, she had been with the WWE so long, and she left that. Now, the situation that she left for, has a conclusion to it. So, we'll see. Best wishes to Lillian Garcia and her family. I really hope things go right for them. Now, after talking about something super depressing, let's talk about something, amazingly uplifting. Let's talk about the fact that Naito wins the Nikkei Sports Battle Award. And, of course, the 2016 MVP award was awarded to him. And, of course, Match of the Year, which was between him and Kenny Omega at the G1 Climax this past year. So, that's awesome. I'm super stoked for my boy Naito. I'm happy about that. What do you guys think about this? Is this well-deserved?
Well, you look at New Japan this year, and from the very beginning, they had a lot of their top stars taken away from them. Naito steps up. A lot of other guys step up. I think Naito absolutely deserved it. Los Ingobernables took over New Japan and really pro wrestling in general. And that match, I gave that match with Kenny Omega that he had for the finale of G1 Climax 5 stars. And you can't really disagree with a 5-star match being the winner.
No, you can't. I think I have this around my top. It's definitely my top 3 matches of the year. It was incredible stuff. Even on rewatching it, it still holds that spot for me. I think just the match, and Naito also, all his tag work this year with his buddies and Los Ingobernables was terrific, and just being a merch seller for New Japan. I mean, Okada still outsold him, I think, on being a draw as far as at the gate, but Naito still kind of has a couple that he could put to his name and say, hey, I helped bring those people in. So definitely at a time when, as Paul mentioned, you're losing all these people, for him to kind of hold it down with Okada and Kenny Omega and Tanahashi and be like, hey, we're okay. We're this, the sky is not falling. That's a big testament to him, and the crowds were totally there for him. They were totally into. There was times you'd watch a show and it would be all about freaking the crowd cheering for Naito. So,
I mean, this is awesome. I'm super stoked for him. This is, one of those times where we can sit here and say they got it right. Naito is one of my favorites, though, so it's kind of hard because I'm super biased. I would say it even if he probably didn't deserve it, to be honest with you. So, I know. Some other interesting news that's going on in the world of wrestling, and trust me, everyone, I mean, we kind of found some of these big topics this week that were not so big because of the fact that it was Christmas week. So don't expect huge topics, just letting you guys know that right away because, everyone else takes a break too. But let's talk about this. And I kind of found this as an interesting topic, and that is the fact that Renee Young was interviewed, and she was asked, what is your level of interest in being in the ring as a performer? And, she had an interesting answer to this. She says that, Vince McMahon expects a lot, from people, and of course the people in the ring, and, she has no training at all. So that would not be something Vince McMahon would expect from her. And she does not seem to have much of an interest right now doing that. And she says it would be great for her to be able to. It's would be wise just in case they needed her to be in the ring, but right now it is not something that she's going to do. I don't know how you guys feel about this. For me personally, I really personally don't want to see Renee Young in the ring. I don't think that she needs to. I get the whole thought process of, well, everybody needs to be ready. Everyone has to have, the ability to do this. But I don't know. I did kind of disagree with that because I don't want to see Mauro Ranallo in the ring. So why do I want to see Renee Young in the ring? I mean, come on. That's just the way. She's not managing Dean Ambrose. She's up in the booth. How do you guys feel about this? Because we've even seen Michael Cole get in the ring, but that's his desire.
For me, Renee just one, she never seemed overly interested as it's already been said. But honestly, she doesn't seem to me like having that natural athleticism or something that really lends herself to being something that you could get a lot of use out of in the ring. And if she ever has the desire to wrestle, then absolutely go for it. You're in a company where you can get some great training with some of the best in the world, and you should absolutely go for it and take advantage of that. But I'm kind of on the same boat. I don't think I really want to see her in the ring, but if it happens, I won't be opposed.
I think with her storyline with Maryse and The Miz and Dean, obviously they're trying to work off of the Total Divas that now Dean and her are on Total Divas, so they're together, so they're kind of just letting everybody in on that, just in case you didn't know, they are, so be prepared or whatever. I think it's fine if you wanted to do something with her and Maryse, or a mixed tag with her and Maryse and Miz and Dean. Outside of that though, I don't see her taking a career into wrestling like it's, the next thing she's going to do. She seems very happy doing what she does for WWE, having such a big role there. I wouldn't have a problem with it either. I think it would be interesting. Just, I don't know that I want to see her do that all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because you probably would have people out there who said, no, we really want to see, her get in the ring and mix it up. It's always a fun thing to have someone you never would imagine in the ring. It's always kind of fun to see, what kind of moves would they do? Or, what kind of experience would this match be if you involved this person and this person that doesn't normally get in the ring? Kind of like the Michael Cole thing, I was talking about. I mean, everybody's like, well, Michael Cole. And then when he showed that he could do a few things, people are like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I never would imagine in a million years. Kind of like, what they did. I mentioned WCW because I used to love WCW. But, when Jay Leno was thrown in the match, you knew he was not going to be able to do everything. But the few things that he could do, which was not much, it was fun. It was like, wow, I can't believe he did that. I never thought Jay Leno could do that. It's a kind of a shock factor. It's one of those type of things. So I get it. I understand why people want to see her in the ring. Of course, like Sean mentioned, being a part of Total Divas, all that kind of stuff also adds to the intrigue of what would Renee Young look like in the ring as a performer? What would be cool? What kind of finisher would she have? All this kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, though, I have no need for it. Just like I have no need for Mauro Ranallo to get in the ring, David Otunga to get in the ring, anybody in that fashion.
Otunga's been in the ring before.
That's the joke. Anyway. Josh Matthews in the ring. Go on and on. But yeah.
Josh Matthews needs to just not do anything. That'd be great.
That wouldn't surprise me if that doesn't eventually happen. But anyway. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to throw that out there for everyone to kind of maybe think about. And of course, if you have your own opinion, shoot them our way. Go, of course, to our Facebook page, Wrestling to the Max. You can go add yourself there if you're not already a part of that group. Give us your thoughts on this. I mean, I'd love to hear what other people have to say about that. One last thing before we get into Paul's wish list for this next year. I want to throw out there the fact that we heard some interesting stuff going on with a former WWE title. And that, of course, is CM Punk's former WWE title that he had stored away in a storage facility. And his good friend, Cliff Compton, actually went to that facility and was going through some stuff. I have no idea why, but he was. And he found the title, and CM Punk said, take it, it's yours. I just want to ask this question to you guys. How much would you like to have a title just to be like someone just give it to you? And not only that, do you think Cliff Compton, just being CM Punk's friend, do you think he's going to keep it? I mean, it would be, to me, be something I would want to keep. But some people, may want to pawn it. I don't know.
I just think with the way that whole situation ended with CM Punk, like he's got no interest. At this moment in time, he's got no interest in going back. I'm sure he's still very upset and angry with how all that went down. And so him giving away didn't shock me at all. I'm sure Cliff will keep it. Like, it's a cool thing to have, right? I mean, he has CM Punk's actual world title belt.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, like Paul said, you got not great. Right now he doesn't really have any interest in wrestling, and especially anything involving WWE. And so, it's whatever for him.
It just makes you wonder if he's going to eventually regret it. And what I mean by this, and I don't know if it's going to happen, but in the future, if he ever was to have kids, let's say he had a kid. And then that kid grows up and is about 7 or 8 and says, Dad, I know you used to wrestle. I've watched all your stuff on the WWE Network. I know I secretly bought it. I know you're mad at me. Don't ground me for 3 years. But I did buy the WWE Network, and I see all your matches. I want to know if I can have some of your old memorabilia. And he's like, oh, I just threw it away, or I gave it all stuff away. How sad maybe he may sit there and think to himself one day that, you know what? It would be cool if my son had this. It's not about the company. It's about my accomplishments. And now I have nothing to give to my kid because I was just being dumb and careless. I don't know. I kind of see that kind of stuff as maybe something that would come back to bite you in the butt eventually one day. Not that it's valuable to him. It may be valuable to somebody else in his family.
As far as I'm aware, he's not and hasn't been on a lot of great terms with his actual family. And, maybe if he ever does have a kid, maybe. But the way Punk is, I don't think he's going to care. I really don't.
He's the type to look at his kid's face and say, "Shut up and grow up. You don't need it."
Yeah, I mean, you don't need it. Yeah.
Wow, that's true. I mean, that may be very true.
he might regret all of it for all we know when he gets older, right?
That's true.
It's
very
just
true.
right now he's got a grudge, and he's one of those guys that holds on to it. I mean, so you just have to live life and see how you feel in a few years or whatever. You know, it is how it is. This just in, James Ellsworth won a squash match at the Madison Square Garden house show that SmackDown had versus Raw. So, wow. Never thought I would say those words. James Ellsworth won a squash match at Madison Square Garden.
Did they say who against?
No.
Oh, boy.
Not yet, but also, apparently, if Chris Hero's medical stuff goes through fine, he will be replacing Samoa Joe on NXT.
Dun, dun, dun. As long as he wears those cool glasses again, we're good.
No.
Good God. Chris
I
Hero
don't
versus
want him to have
Shinsuke
that character
Nakamura.
anymore.
Chris Hero versus Shinsuke Nakamura, guys.
Battle of the Donuts.
I'm marking out.
Will this be the match where Shinsuke finally decides, hey, I'm going to give it my all again?
When elbows meet knees.
Here we go. That'll be fun. That'll be a lot of fun, honestly. But here we go. I mean, that's
just
cool.
like, I know we didn't like, you guys kind of glossed over what I said, but honestly, I feel like we haven't gotten the same Shinsuke since that match was. I felt like Shinsuke showed up for that match with Sami Zayn, and aside from that, we've kind of got the Shinsuke that knows he's great and knows he doesn't have to like turn it on unless there's something that makes that come out of him. I guess I don't blame him. He doesn't have to work super, super hard to put on a great match, but I don't know. I wish he would have been able to see more stuff like him and Sami Zayn.
You know, I mean, for me, I don't think he's clicked with anybody as much as he did with Sami Zayn. Like, that was a match he really wanted to do in the first place, which I'm sure helps in the motivation department. But, like, him and Joe, they've had a good match, but they've never had anything like, oh my God, match of the year, oh my God, this is so great. I mean, and I mean, maybe they just don't click. It's possible. And him and Aries was, all the matches he had before the Joe feud were gearing up towards him being the guy. And
yeah, him and Finn was kind of on that same level of some of the Joe matches. Like, some of them were really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, and I understand that. And, you know, at the end of the day, I kind of look at it as, you know, it's the clicking part, and I think also he's got to have some more to showcase and bigger matches. And NXT's great, NXT's place, but, you know, I think once he has more eyes on him, he can be able to get to that next level and really push it with guys that I think he's excited about wrestling against. And so we'll see. I mean, he's going to have a match against Bobby Roode coming up, and that could be an amazing match. That could be something that we will be saying, oh, wow, there's that Samoa Joe we remember. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just saying it could be. So I'm not willing to say that, you know, he's mailing it in or anything. I just think maybe, you know.
I mean, I don't blame him if he is. I mean, he didn't come to WWE to be in NXT.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, true. I mean, I just think there's a lot of greater days ahead of him. So we'll see. Well, you know, guys, that's Quick Kiss for us. You know, not anything super major, but some interesting topics for us to talk about. So I hope everybody, of course, enjoyed them. And we're going to move on from here, though, guys. We need to get into Paul's wish list for this next year. You know, me and Sean gave our Christmas wish list, you know, last Saturday, right, Sean? I'm sorry. Saturday morning, we gave it. We gave everybody a Christmas Eve edition.
Just to, you know, if you go, oh, I'm over Christmas, whatever. We are going to talk about some, like, other things interspersed in here, so you don't want to like tune out and go, okay, I'm done here. We're going to talk about some interesting stuff in here while Paul talks about these things. So You want
Definitely.
to stick around and listen.
Definitely.
Yeah, and when I made up my list, and I listened to that last episode so I could hear Gary and Sean talk about all their stuff and everything, I really wanted to try to step out and be a little different, because they focus a lot on WWE, and that, granted, that is 3/5 of probably what we watch every week, so nothing wrong with that. But my first wish, independent wrestling continues to grow in 2017. I think independent wrestling is maybe as hot as it ever been. You have streaming and a lot of other things to thank for it, but I think just social media and people's awareness of stuff outside the WWE, whether it's you going and finding a new Puroresu promotion to follow in Japan, or you get hooked on something in the super hot UK scene in Progress or RevPro or Pro Wrestling Attack or Preston City Wrestling or whatever you're into over there, or whether it's here on the home front, up in Chicago with the AIW over in Cleveland. You got VIP Wrestling and a couple others here in Dallas that are starting to catch fire. Wrestle Circus, especially in Austin, Inspire, all those guys. Even the bigger guys, ROH, PWG, there's more eyes on them, I think, than ever. And you can tell just simply, I think, by these big events that they'll hold, with the Global Wars or the BOLA, or even AAW's big Jim. I'm forgetting the guy's name. The Memorial Tournament they did this year, though, was super huge, and had another Chris Hero, Zack Sabre match in the final that was supposed to be incredible. But Evolve is another great example. Just, I want to see that scene continue to grow, and especially with WWE either partnering up or signing a bunch of guys, there's so much more room for new stars to come up, and that's really what I'm excited about. There's big spotlights to be had. And I want to see who steps up, and I want to see these promotions continue to go upwards.
Yeah, and what I love about this and the thought process going with this is the fact that now we have the ability, like Paul said, with these streaming services to see all this content, to see all these young stars, get an opportunity to get an education of who these people are before they do hit the major leagues of WWE. Of course, maybe some other promotions like Ring of Honor and other places that have more visibility compared with what these indie circuit, companies have. And of course, we saw I just had it a minute ago. World of Sport is, apparently going to be a big thing, and the UK is going to really promote it, and it's going to be on a network, and it's going to be something huge in the UK. That's something else that I think could be awesome, and I think it's going to help wrestling. I think it's also going to showcase some guys that we may not have ever got a chance to see or hear from. So this is cool. This is exciting, and I think it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's going, and I mean, we're like in a golden age, really, of indie wrestling, where not only can you go to almost anywhere in the United States and probably see some good wrestling, but you can watch a lot of it, and that's the amazing part. Whether it's UK indies, whether it's Japanese indies, whether it's American indies, you can watch a heck of a lot of it, and you can get yourself lost in wrestling in 2016. And if that's all you want to do, you can do that, and large part of it, you can do it for a very small cost to you. So, I mean, that's just amazing that in 2016, this is what we can do.
Yeah, and I mean, that feeds right into my next one, too, where I want to see, and I really wish that streaming services like Flow Sports, where you get these big packages and combinations of indie promotions coming together to change the game. And whether it's obviously the network already has changed the game, where you have solo offerings like them, or New Japan World, or Stardom, DDT. But like service, like there's Powerbomb TV that's coming sometime next year. That's got a bunch of promotions already signed. Flow Sports, of course, has Evolve and the whole WWN family. But they're another big, if you have another big pack, like say Ring of Honor and PWG team up and create their own package or something like that. I want to see these big catch-all networks sort of catch as much indie promotions as they can, or even bigger indies, or whatever term you want to use, and just broadcast them to the world. That will change these big, network type style things. I think that's I think that's where wrestling is, because people are going to run out of money trying to pay for individual offerings. And I think wrestling promotions and indie promoters are going to be smart enough to realize that the pie is only so big in indie wrestling right now. And that's not to say it can't grow or expand or become an even more delicious pie down the road. But for now, I feel like grouping up is the smart option. And especially because if you have big names like you have in Flow Sports with Evolve, and you have all these other guys that start jumping on, somebody's going to watch your show at some point that is not already watching it. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and think about it from another perspective. Say you're not, like, right now we are considering it, but we're not on the Flow Sports bandwagon. But I think look at it from a perspective of, okay, CBS is, and this is in America, so I apologize if you're in another country and you don't care about my analogy that I'm going to use here, but CBS is not connected to Hulu, and so they have their own app that's, I think, like $7 a month or whatever, and you can watch all the CBS shows. Imagine if every single one of those network channels then made their own channel like that instead of them being on Hulu. That's why they haven't, because they realize that having them all on this one thing where you pay $7.99 or $11.99 or whatever is way better than having somebody try to pay $7.99 for each individual network's thing. And so that's the whole point. I think we are going to get to a point next year, and there's rumors again starting up, and this is on, places that are not, this is not on websites yet, this is on the, Twitterverse and boards and whatever. There's again talk of WWE is again thinking about putting some, indies on their network or bringing something to their network besides that UK thing. And so, the thing is, the more you can do, like what Paul's saying, grouping these people together and putting it on one service is way better than what I'm worried about is that in Japan eventually we're going to get every single, major promotion by itself. And then it's going to become very difficult to try to watch things because we're going to be looking at anywhere from $7 to $10 to be able to watch Dragon Gate and All Japan and Big Japan and DDT and New Japan. DDT and New Japan already have theirs. And then not to mention, some of the Joshi, there's already 2 Joshi promotions that have theirs. So, I would hope that with some of these companies owning several of the promotions or having deals with some of the promotions, just make an entire Gorora network and bring that to the masses instead of having these individual things. The same thing like I don't know if Progress or RevPro would ever think of joining together, or would they consider joining FlowSlam or whatever to have it all in one thing. Because imagine just paying every time you sit there and put down $7. Okay, that's $7. Okay, so you're gonna run up and go, oh crap, I'm paying $100 in streaming services before you know it, and that's somebody's electric bill or whatever, and you're gonna have to start cutting costs, and before you know it, you have to whittle it down to 3 that you can watch, and that's a bummer. So hopefully they realize that to avoid oversaturation, just group together and make it better for the consumer.
Yeah, because, I'll be honest, I love Sean's analogy of CBS because of the fact that, for me personally, I have been interested in watching some CBS shows, but I know I'm not going to catch them all the time, and honestly, my DVR fills up, so I'm not going to record something I'm going to take longer to watch. So I will actually watch almost all the other shows on Hulu compared to recording everything on DVR, and I can't do that with CBS. And because CBS is not a part of Hulu. So I purposely sometimes don't get into a show on CBS for that reason. I purposely don't try to invest anything because I'm afraid I won't be able to catch up. And if I don't, then guess what? I am out of luck because I can't because they refuse to allow me to catch up.
Yeah, and then if you ever cut off your Verizon or your Frontier or whatever, you won't have on demand. So like the other option that you do have right now, you're also worried about because like, okay, well if I ever decide to become a cord cutter, which that's continuing to happen, I think it's like every month 100,000 people cut the cord.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got the notice that Comcast is now forcing us to pay $50 a month for unlimited data. It used to be $30, which is a pain in the frickin' ass. Now I got to pay $150 a month for cable again, but while having PS View. But it's just like, this is stupid. You know, that this is the thing. Like all these internet costs are going to start going up. More places are going to do this, not just Comcast. You're going to start seeing cable companies everywhere start doing this, where they're going to start charging you for data like on your phone. And so that's going to make your bill higher, so you're probably going to cut the cable part out of your bill, and you're going to start picking up streaming services, and you're going to say, okay, which ones do I really need? Which ones do I want to watch? You know, and if you're not just watching wrestling, like what, you know, Gary just got done talking about, that's other streaming services that you're putting in there. Like, you know, I also pay for Crunchyroll, so there's like $7 right there. So, just to watch anime. So, I mean, like, that's, everything will eventually become a streaming service. You know? Like there's a mail order thing for almost everything now. You know, Blue Apron, Grays, whatever. We're going to get oversaturated to the point where everything is going to be a pay this much a month to get this. And you're going to start seeing bills, woo, you know, and just hopefully wrestling makes it easier for us than some of these other places.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're already talking, everybody probably has a Netflix account out there, too.
Mm-hmm.
That's something. But, I mean, no matter where you live, imagine each and every one of your major networks on television having their own streaming service and trying to sell you on it. It will get out of control, as these guys have already said. And wrestling, I feel like it's sort of setting a tone for how streaming is going to go. You know, you had a lot of other people hit the game before WWE did, but I think WWE absolutely does it the best as far as giving you as much live content as they can create in this short amount of time that they have. And I think people might be trying to follow that model. I mean, CBS is an example these guys brought up, but their new Star Trek series next year, after the first episode airs on television, it's exclusively on their streaming service, CBS All Access. So that's something to think about moving forward as these other people either try to catch up or model the success of the WWE network, I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Next up on my list, it's going to shift majoritively to WWE, but one, I really want a clear-cut definition of NXT. It's become such a bubble term for what is not only the television product you get every Wednesday on the network, but it's their training center, it's their development territory, it's a third brand, it's all these different things. The thing I used to really enjoy back in the original brand split near the end of it was you had your main shows in SmackDown and Raw. ECW served as like a AAA, if I can use the baseball term here, or your next step down. And then you had Florida Championship Wrestling, which was their actual development territory. And ECW sort of served as a bridge. And then you had the guys in the training camps below all of that, right? I really want to see a return to form for that model. And I think that's what they want NXT to be ultimately, is either this is where we sign all our indie guys and stick them in here so they can learn the style before they move up, or this is where the training guys on the step below move up to once they're TV ready. And NXT is its own touring thing, obviously. But they need to define, I think, what NXT is. And it'll certainly make, I think, watching NXT return to form from the couple of years they had where Sami Zayn's and Neville and Bo Dallas and all those guys where you had, I don't want to say can't miss TV, but certainly much more watchable TV, where it didn't feel like your traditional 70s, 80s show. Because, I can understand squash episodes the entire way. I really would like a good match every now and again, though.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And NXT has become this, and like that. I think part of that is also like the loss of Dusty. I feel like it's not really compelling TV anymore. It's a thing that you watch, and there's so many times we watch these takeovers, and I got more out of watching the hype video before the match than I did watching all those weeks of NXT. And that should tell you that means NXT is not doing its job as far as being a compelling TV product. And I think honestly, like you, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, they need a developmental to their developmental. Because, for one, some of these guys that are on NXT shouldn't be on NXT. Secondly, NXT, you don't know what NXT is, like what Paul said, and it's hurting what comes out of there. Because they are great at taking the indie person and polishing it and refining it and turning them into that last thing that you need. That's what they're great at right now. They're not really good at taking somebody from scratch and building them into this star, because they wind up on the main roster and they do nothing for a long time. And then you might get guys like Roman that Vince takes a liking to, and he sticks around and gets better on the main roster. Or I think like Big Cass is finally starting to get somewhere. Bray Wyatt has finally turned the corner. But it's taken that long for them to get there. They should have already been there before they got to the main roster. Like Carmella is just now starting to become something. Like Alexa, I think, finally got it, but it took her being on the main roster to really develop that character and get better at wrestling and all those things. Like, that also makes it to where Vince is hesitant to use them at first and go with them, because he can see them and say, okay, well, that person's not ready, but we got to bring him up because he's got something, or she's got something. And yeah, just the amount of work. I mean, I get it. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot more on them that's already paying for something that's losing them money. But if you really want to make better stars, you might want to have a lower tier than just the Performance Center. You might want to have something beneath NXT.
Yeah, this is my argument for the fact that, having Evolve as a partner with WWE is not a bad thing, and also it serves as more of a developmental. I mean, we've seen it. They've had Evolve add some guys to their roster and see if they can groom them to join NXT. And so I don't know why you couldn't, like we talked about earlier with my streaming, have that be the Performance Center, really. Have that be, the place where people go out after they take a week on at the Performance Center and go out to the, wherever Evolve's having a show and do it and train, get better in front of a live crowd. And then, when you're ready, you actually get to go to NXT tapings and be a part of the NXT roster once you're well-rounded and once you're groomed pretty well. I know you may not be perfect, but at least you're a lot well-groomed and you're ready for those big shows. And so I think you guys are right. I mean, I think it's kind of a cool thing to think about if we can get a show back to where it once was and not to, squashing like we're doing now.
Yeah, and just I think I think you guys said it. Just define NXT. Let's get some definition there. And it's, I don't think FCW, whenever they were doing all that, really ran them at a huge cost. Granted, they had a TV deal with Florida too, so I don't know. Fourth on the list here, we say this every year. And I think this is only something they've really started to get a grasp on maybe 50% of the time. But these mid-card feuds gotta matter, guys. They gotta matter a whole bunch more than they do. And with the brand split, I think you're starting to sort of see glimpses of this starting to come to fruition. But it's still not a driving force. Like, there used to be mid-card feuds where people would show up to the shows to watch those. As great as the main event stuff was, you had stuff down the whole card that really drew you. And, you know, with SmackDown, I think the tag teams are starting to matter more. And obviously on Raw, I think you have these acts that are starting to break out and make people care about these feuds. But it's not the whole way down. And I understand you're not going to have everything be a knockout of the park success. But you could certainly put a lot more effort into some of the stuff that you're doing in the mid-card.
Yeah, you know, in WB alone, I mean, their mid-card has so much talent. I mean, they really do have a talent both on Raw and SmackDown. You know, sure, we say, well, the rosters are kind of thin. Well, you know, it depends on the way you look at it. The reason people call them thin is because they haven't progressed a lot of the mid-carders that really, honestly, deserve it. And so I think that you have the perfect opportunity now to do what you're saying here and make those feuds important, make them matter, make us care about them. Let's don't get to the point where we're sitting there during Raw saying, good God, let's just get to that last hour so I can see the last 30 minutes. No, we don't want to do that. We want to be talking about the whole second hour, you know, around the water cooler. Let's do that, you know. And I think it's important. I think it's the only way that can make the product grow is to get that mid-card section and really build it and make it just as interesting as what you may be seeing in the main part of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, WWE continues to talk about wanting different audiences. I think the way you attract different audiences is putting on different kinds of mid-card feuds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth, and we've been talking about this for years about, I mean, now they've done a much better job this year than I think they have in so many years past of making mid-card feuds matter, mainly because their brand extension has forced them to do that, because you have to, or half your shows is going to be worthless. Mm-hmm. And SmackDown is doing it much better than Raw, but SmackDown is doing many things better than Raw at this point. But, you know, honestly, for me, I think it's just one of these things where you have to develop the characters first, right? I mean, you have to give us reasons to care, give them a little bit of depth, give them a little bit of humanity. I'm glad that you're sort of tapping into what some of these guys and gals kind of motivations are, but until you stop scripting every single line that they say and every single moment that they do, and I think part of that's going to hurt because it's hard to get into what they're doing if you don't believe in what they're saying. You know, if you don't believe in what is happening on screen, how in the world am I supposed to care about that feud? Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that just goes back to the whole, we can't really complain so much about 50-50 booking because that's just WWE's style. That's what they do. I've got myself off of the whole let's complain about this because this is what WWE does. This is their belief of how they're going to get somebody over. Until they stop doing it, beating the dead horse is not going to help us at all as far as us being able to analyze what WWE does. I just feel like there is a way to positively use that and understand that in certain feuds, some people just got to go over. To make that feud more compelling, sometimes you got to have that guy lose a couple of times, and then he finally gets that comeuppance later, or whatever. You don't just have him, oh, well, that guy won the pay-per-view, so that person needs to win on Raw, and whatever. And it's all a microcosm of a lot of different things, but as long as you develop stories for things that don't involve the title, people will start to care. I think, like, they had to establish the women, I mean, as much as we don't like what they did with the women's title, at the end of the day, you now care about that Sasha and Nia Jax feud a lot more than you did before.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's too true. It's too true. And I think we made our feelings very prevalent on that throughout the show if you listen to us week to week. But yeah, there is a point to how they've sort of done the 50-50 booking, even though it still bothers the bejesus out of me that they do that. But yeah, you live and learn, and you learn to go find something else to watch so you can vent and be like, hey, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
Last on the list, I want to see AJ Styles somehow top his 2016 next year. He has been, for the lack of a better word, phenomenal. And since he showed up at the Rumble to this point in time, I think we've seen him grow into not only a more well-rounded wrestler, but a more well-rounded entertainer, as his microphone skills might be the best they've ever been. I think he's created a compelling character. And anytime he stepped in the ring with anybody, whether it's Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, John Cena, Sami Zayn, Joe Schmo in the front row, a wet paper bag, the broomstick from the janitor's closet, it's been over 4 stars.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's truly something to just marvel at, and it's how could he really top his 2016? I mean, he started it at Wrestle Kingdom and went to Royal Rumble, and then from then on lit the WWE on fire as far as being that model of what a guy can be coming from a different place and absolutely just destroying all of the preconceptions you have of what a guy like that can be. And, you know, you go, damn, what would have happened if AJ Styles would have come 5 years ago to WWE, you know? But I think just that's going to be amazing. What could he do to top his 2016? I mean, damn, he's already the top of the SmackDown brand. I mean, other than, like, main eventing WrestleMania, I don't know what he could really do. Just to have 5-star matches all over the place? I mean, gosh.
Yeah, and that is tough. And it is for the reason he has been so successful in 2016. And if he's going to be successful in 2017, he's going to have to repeat some of these accomplishments and add more to it. And I don't know. I know it's right now as it sits, it's going to be hard for me to see that just taking place just out of the blue. But, I mean, I'm along with Paul. I really wish that he would have another great year and really prove in 2017 he's everything he has advertised, and he's got more than what he's shown you. I would love to see that. Is it going to happen? Will it happen? I don't know. I'm not willing to say that here, but I definitely could see where AJ Styles being a prominent figure, having such a great year in 2017 could be good for WWE and honestly good for the wrestling business.
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all I got.
So, all right, some great stuff there, Paul. I really appreciate you bringing your wish list, and man, I hope any of our wishes come true. Because a lot of those wishes we had, I really feel like they would make the wrestling business better for everyone, and we'd all, be really having a great year. So, all right, well, we're going to do one last thing before we get out of here, guys. We are going to talk about some topics that we've talked about on the show, but really, we haven't talked about the impact that they've had on, us now that we've maybe gone past those certain situations that went down, or maybe some of the conclusions that have taken place after we had talked about them. And, of course, maybe we'll jump into some things we want to see happen next year, and maybe some topics we see unfolding in front of our eyes. The one thing I want to start this thing off with, and I'll just kind of give you mine, and I'll let you guys kind of expound on some of yours, is mine is about TNA. At the beginning of this year, we weren't really sure about TNA. Throughout the year, we were just told that they were going to die, that this is the end of their days. Billy Corgan was going to be one of the last guys to help run this thing, and it would be over. And before you know it, they're bought again, and now they are trying to make their own way, still in their infancy of this new ownership. But, I mean, at the end of the day, they've had some headway with Broken Matt Hardy. They've signed a few stars that they feel like can make their company great. How do you feel about this? Because, I mean, this is a topic that's been on our lips almost every week when we do quick hits.
We talk about TNA dying or on the breach of, death's door, or, finally falling off the edge of the world, or however you want to put it, for what feels like since we started this show. This year, I think, might be a year where I would be confident in saying maybe they aren't going to die. Maybe they'll somehow pull through. And I think Gary nailed it on the head already. It's the broken Matt Hardy stuff seemingly came out of nowhere, and it's offered something different. And I think that's what TNA has always needed to be, was that true alternative. What Matt Hardy has created with the broken story, and what they've sort of let Matt fly with as far as bringing in, his wife and letting his son and Jeff, and the whole idea of Final Deletion and Delete and Decay and the Apocalyptico and all this stuff it's made TNA, I don't want to say must watch, but if you're at all interested, it is absolutely worth your time. And they, for a while there, for at least 6-7 months, they had a super heavy weight division that was just, you had to watch that too, because those guys were doing great with your Bobby Lashley's and your Drew Galloway's and your EC3s and all those guys. I think really just putting on something worth watching, even if the rest of the card wasn't so great at times.
I think definitely with Anthem being there now and them having a stake in TNA, as far as, because TNA is on their channel in Canada, they're going to fit the bill for at least a while. That rating for Total Nonstop Deletion wasn't positive. I think we had to, was it last week or is it this week that it's like the holiday with the Hardys or something, so I think we need to make sure we watch that. But that the thing is too, the Hardys contracts, I think they come up in February, and will that be, being former WWE guys and being former WWE stars, will WWE try to offer them some big money to come over as Broken Matt, and then you kind of get a watered down version of it, and then TNA loses that, which is sort of a linchpin and anchor of what their show has been, like you said, Paul. And the thing is too is they've kind of lost that. I think Eddie Edwards has been great. He's been fine as a champion, and I think he's been having some good matches or whatever, but I feel like a lot of their show is sort of directionless. It's just kind of a show that happens every week. And hopefully with, whether it's Jeff Jarrett, it kind of gets in there in creative with Anthem talking to him, or whether it's somebody else that sort of actually really knows what they're doing and gives them a direction that's consistent, and that all the divisions start being consistent, because the tag team division is just outside of the Hardys. It's kind of just up in the air too. The X division has been what it is. The knockouts has been completely and utterly lacking for a long time. Just, they have done a good job of kind of making themselves different, but now you got to start being consistent, and you got to go out and try to deliver a product that knows what it's doing, where it wants to be, and have goals for what you want it to hit, whatever, business-wise in the future, and whatever. Now that you have the money and infrastructure for it to grow, I'm just worried about, does WWE come and take some of their, Drew Galloway's contract comes in February. If WWE comes and takes some of their stars, is that going to really hurt TNA to the point where they may not be able to sort of rebound, and they just stay in that really middling, nobody's watching them but they're there state, and they kind of just exist and nothing ever, because look, it's great that you guys have that app now, but again, if nobody's watching you, it doesn't matter that you have that app. It doesn't matter that you're finally getting with the times.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think for TNA, the next step for them, they have to evolve out from where they are. Look, the Broken story, I think, has gotten people's attention back in. Going down the rest of the card from there, though, I think you really have to evolve and come up with a game plan of what you want to do. Like Sean said, you have 2 championships that really have nothing behind them in the X Division and the Knockouts title. Either diversify there or get rid of them and try to figure out where you want to focus TNA on going forward in the future. I think that's the only real way you're going to bring people back is if you come back with a much more focused direction than anything you really had in this last 5 years of business of them being on death's door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I look at this roster too, and I think the roster has some great talent. But if you're not using some of this talent and you really just don't know what to do with it, get rid of it. Let them go on and do their own thing. Bring in talent that you want to work with, and make it happen. Don't keep talent around that you don't really have any interest really in working with, because if you do, you're going to neglect it and you're not going to use it right. And I think TNA has done that in the past, and just don't let that happen. You can't afford to let that happen right now. So that's my best hope for TNA. Is
and
they
like
can figure
I said on Thursday, stop bringing in, for every Braxton Sutter that you sort of hit on, and I'm not saying you kind of hit on him, now he's sort of like this accessory in the Alley feud, which is, I guess, is fine. But, for every one of those that you hit on, or Mike Bennett that's okay, please don't sign any more Mahabali Shiras and, the WWE F guys that you're bringing in. Why? Just because they were in NXT for a hot minute? Those people can just not have roles. Make sure you have talent that are going to be able to go somewhere in your company. Don't just... I get you need jobbers or whatever, but I don't know. TNA is not in that sort of situation right now where when you have somebody on TV, they need to matter and they need to be somebody I care about, or anybody cares about for that matter. And Baron Dax and Al Snow and whatever the hell they're doing is always fast forwardville for me. And I'm sure it is for almost anybody else that watches TNA. And I'm just saying, you got to be careful about, you've got an hour and a half of TV with those commercials. Make sure that what you're putting on that TV, every segment is hitting, and each one of those people that you're putting on there is someone to care about and someone that could do something for your TV show.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I'm right there with you, too, on that. So, TNA is a big topic, and we've been talking about, like Paul said, really, honestly, it feels like forever. But this year, they've been going through a lot of, situations of influx, and so it's going to be a continuing story, I'm sure, into next year. And I really have a feeling we'll have some new discussions and some new things to really either worry about or be excited about when it comes to TNA in 2017. Paul, what's another, big topic that we've had this past year that you kind of found interesting?
We already talked about the streaming thing, so I don't know if we want to retouch on that, but that's certainly been a big deal. Yeah, I got nothing.
I think, kind of being, we've sort of talked about it too with how big AJ got, but being able to examine what that New Japan exodus did for wrestling as a whole now that it's almost a year later. And being able to see that, I'm looking at Twitter and Yuji Nagata is now tweeting out that he re-signed with New Japan. And that apparently this talent thing that Sonata was signed to has now released him, so perhaps he is going to sign a deal with New Japan as well. And, the ROH is not going about their re-signing some of these people very well. Now there's rumors that Kyle O'Reilly might be going. And so, this is a huge thing that what WWE is doing with signing people and what it has done to caused some of these streaming services to show up, and what it's done to cause ROH to have to be smarter about, hey, we got to make sure we offer these guys some money. Like, I think it's interesting what this has become. It's like this this whole year was amazing. At whoever thought we would have got the Cruiserweight Classic, where we would have just had guys that aren't signed or just in NXT wrestling. And I don't know that next year we're going to have all these friendly alliances. Next year we might have like lines being drawn, like Hidani says, we might be having people declaring war on each other. And look, we're going to sign people and you're going to be signed to us and you're not going anywhere. Because at some point, you're going to have to do something to keep WWE from just grabbing everybody, right? So, I don't know. I don't know that. I wonder if this Alliance of Progress and Evolve and all this is going to last through 2017 with WWE. Because eventually, some of these other companies are going to come in, and because maybe they have to kind of make way for WWE, they lose on talent, and it causes a rift, and Vince just says, you know what, the hell with them. It's not like it's the end of the world, and it causes the indies to kind of be sectioned off instead of the indies being where right now everybody's kind of working with everybody.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think this sort of ties into the creation of the WWE UK Championship and that whole tournament that they're going to do over there, and the kind of contracts those guys are signing, where it really feels like that's sort of a proving ground to see if this idea can work, where WWE can sign guys to work these sort of type shows for them, where they can put on these little specialty things in other areas of the world, yet still have them work the indies. And if this sort of flies, I think you could see this sort of model exported out across the entire world, where you have a WWE Japan, you have a WWE Europe, you have a WWE Asia, or however focused they want to get, and you start seeing these smaller WWE shows pop up where you have local talent not only working on those type of shows, but still being able to work out across indies. So I think WWE's relationship with independent promotions is going to become very important, and sort of seeing if they can create this model where you have not only a direct line up to the main shows through NXT and whatever else they might create through the Performance Center and everything else, but as well as a worldwide sort of development area where you have these other promotions sort of working in conjunction with independents that are out there.
It's very, interesting the way things are working out with all these, independent wrestlers and everybody that is, considering joining WWE, going different promotions, and just the way this whole situation has ran, at least this past year, and how it could affect next year. And I think it's honestly exciting. It really, really is, because now you're not just getting the chance to see these same people that maybe you followed for a long time, but you're going to get a chance to see them, wrestle in a completely different maybe style, or even get a chance to see them on a bigger stage. And that's really cool to me, and that's something that I think is hopefully going to be even bigger and better this next year. So to me, it's a great thing. I really appreciate it, and I hope it continues.
I mean, I'm glad that WWE's wanting to work with people and everything. I'm just worried about the WWE monopoly happening, where everything now becomes WWE sponsored. But now you have these like lower level indies that are around, and you'll still have your ROHs and your TNAs and New Japans and stuff like that. But I'm a little worried about everything having WWE's branding on it and everything becoming homogenized.
I mean, that's what they've been out to create for what seems like years, where they want the brand. We've talked about it on here, and you bring it up often, is that the brand is now more important than superstars. And I think they want that big global brand. And I think this UK thing is sort of the start of something of them trying to see if they can create that big global brand where you can have WWE UK, WWE Mexico, and sort of having it all feed into the larger narrative that you have going on television every week across the world in Raw and SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like Kadani said, because we don't know what's going to happen in the TV market in 3 to 5 years or whatever. They might actually have to do that to survive, because the network is as profitable as it is. It's not going to sustain them. They're going to need other avenues, and live events is going to be that thing. And so when they go into these markets, they're now going to be competing with WWE Japan is going to be competing with New Japan and Dragon Gate and all this for people's dollars, and any other region that they go into. And so, that's going to be an interesting thing to see how that all kind of lays out, and who WWE is going to be able to sign and all this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. This past year has been, interesting on other, avenues as well.
I think one more thing too before we
go ahead.
Just the way women's wrestling has changed for WWE is a huge thing, I think, for this year, and how if this tournament ever materializes, which I'm sure they're not signing people just because whatever. I'm sure it will materialize at some point here, this women's tournament. But it is amazing to me that we were there when they decided to bring back the women's championship, and that they have gone full tilt with, this is a women's division where we have the women wrestle, and we are going to feature them like the men, and they're going to have multiple storylines, and it's incredible. It's something you can be proud of. It's not something that you cringe and go, oh my god, they're divas and they're wrestling in bra and panties matches and stuff like that, or they're out there only wrestling for 3 minutes, or it's really crazy. It's incredible to see how they're going to be able to grow this next year.
Before all this came about, there was a idea of what women's wrestling could be that the mainstream audiences that watch WWE exclusively know about through Trish Stratus and Lita, and some of that followed: Beth Phoenix, Molly Holly, Victoria, other names that I'm probably leaving off this list. And you have a younger generation sort of struggling and striving to get in there when WWE has a completely different idea for what they want out of women on their television screens. And I think not only in wrestling, but just in society, you're having a large change of what gender roles are supposed to be. And that's very much played into what the women's revolution is about. And it's nice to see all these women who have worked so hard to fight for that equality as far as being treated the same as men in presentation, and how viewers should view wrestlers of any gender and any right, finally pay off. And I think the women that get signed for the Women's Wrestling Classic and whatever else comes forward, and the women who are in NXT now, reap the benefits for a long, long time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are right, and women's wrestling is something that has definitely evolved, and we saw the growth, and we've seen a lot of change, and the way that even a company like WWE, who has had a certain way of looking at them, really evolved and really become a long, long way. So that's exciting, and I think we'll see even bigger and better things in 2017, especially with this big tournament that they're going to have with the women's division. And, see how all that kind of shakes out. So lots of cool stuff there. And, I wasn't really going to get into too much, I guess, more maybe. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts. I think, this year, when it comes to controversies, of course, the Hulk Hogan had the whole Gawker thing all year, the lawsuit and how that all transpired, and how that has, of course, been a big deal. But, over the year, I mean, we just had lots of great things take place when it comes to some great matches and some great events. but nothing too controversial that it has really hurt the wrestling business, and that's a very big positive. And you got to say that, when you get that, kind of deal going on, when all the other sports out there have had some really, really terrible situations. I think the closest thing this past year we've gotten to maybe domestic violence is Adam Rose. And I think there may be one or two more, but very minimal compared to what we've seen with the NFL. The NBA's had their own issues, different, sports.
College football.
So college football. So it's a very positive thing that the world of wrestling has not been affected by some of these negativities that we've seen in other sports, and it's a positive. It's a really, really big positive.
They do have that concussion. The concussion lawsuit's looming. And if they ever deem Jimmy Snuka able to be at trial, then I think that's where you'll get something like that. But yeah, I mean, at least for 2016, you're right, Gary. We kind of skated over that, which is a good thing.
Definitely. So, well, unless you guys have anything else, I think we're done. I think we've kind of covered a lot of different things tonight. A great discussion. For a show that didn't have lots of news topics that were just blowing you out of the water, we've had some really great topics, and I've been really happy that we've had a lot of interesting things to talk about compared to just being like, hey, this happened, let's go home. This has actually been really cool, and I hope everybody else out there has appreciated it. And of course, we'll be back next Thursday night with some more great content for you guys on part 2 of episode 227. We'll be getting into our awards for this year. That's right, the 2016 W2M Awards will be discussed and, of course, will be announced. So be looking forward to that. Plus, we're going to be getting into some other great news topics, I'm sure. Some things may break this week that we have not got a chance to cover on this show for tonight. Be looking forward to that, and of course, plus some more great stuff coming your way. Don't forget about all the review shows we do, Raw, along with SmackDown Live, and we're also, you heard about 205 Live being a part of that, along with we're doing NXT as a separate show for you guys. That's going to be something cool. We'll have a 2-hour show to actually talk about this week, so I'll be looking forward to that. And, of course, all the other great content that we have will be available for you guys on the W2M Network, along with the W2Mnet.com website that you need to go check out. Once again, W2Mnet.com. Go check it out for all your reading needs and, of course, to go find all our great podcasts. So, besides that, we are Finn. We appreciate you once again, and we will be catching you guys down the road. But until next time, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Peace.
Later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.